This is the story about the Mitten, and it's written by one of my favorite authors, which is the person that writes the stories. Her name is Jan Brett. What do you see on the front of this book? Lots of snow and some animals. Do you recognize any of those? All right, let's find out what these little animals are going to get into today. Once there was a boy named Nicky, who more than anything else in the world wanted to have a pair of white mittens. So he asked his grandmother to knit them for them. And she did. She made him 2 beautiful white mittens. And the first thing she said to him was, "Nicky, I'm going to look when you come in every day and see if you have those mittens on, because if you lose one in the snow, you'll never find it." So off she went out to play in the snow. And the first thing that happened was, oh no, one of his mittens fell into the snow. It's hard to see that mitten, isn't it? A little mole was tunneling up through the ground, and it saw that little mitten and decided to climb right in. So in he goes, making his way to be nice and warm. Then a snowshoe rabbit came hopping along, and it saw the mitten and decided it wanted to get warm too. So it climbed right in, next to the mole, who wasn't very happy about those big paws being up near his face. So he moved over and made room. Up in the tree was an owl, and it heard all the commotion. So it flew down to see what was going on. It saw that mitten, and it looked so nice and warm and comfy. So he decided to climb in. But inside, that mole and the rabbit were not very happy to see those big claws of his. So they scooched over and made room for him. A badger was tunneling under the ground looking for leaves and things to eat. And as he came up, he smelled all the good things that were inside that mitten, decided that he did not want to be left out. So he climbed in to get warm. Well, the mole, the rabbit, and the owl instantly moved over when they saw that big badger climbing in. There he is. Along came a fox, sniffling through the woods, looking for good things to eat. And he saw the mitten, and he smelled the animals inside, and he did not want to be left out. So he climbed in too. Meanwhile, the other animals are in there, and they're fussing and they're fighting and they're trying to make room because the mitten is very small, but it's getting tighter and tighter. But in goes the fox. Pretty soon, a big bear comes lumbering along, and he did not want to be left out in the cold when all those other animals were in there staying so nice and warm and cozy. So he said, "Move over, I'm coming in," and he decided that he would go in backwards. So he pushed and pushed, and I'm going to help him, till he was stuck all the way into the mitten. And oh my goodness, the mitten was getting stretched beyond belief, but that big old bear made it inside. Last came a little tiny mouse, squeak, 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 and looked at the mitten and wanted to get warm, but there didn't look like there was any room. But she decided to try anyway, and she snuck right in there, and she found a little tiny spot right on top of the bear's nose. Well, that bear, her little tail started to tickle his nose. And the next thing you know, achoo! And all the animals went flying all over the place. Oh my goodness. And when that Mitten exploded with all the animals, down came the Mitten back into the snow. And look who's coming along. Do you remember whose Mitten that was? You're right, there's Nicky's Mitten. And he picked it up. He caught it in the air. And then when he got home, he showed his grandmother that he had his 2 mittens, just like he promised that he had not lost them in the snow. But Nicky's grandmother is noticing something a little different about those mittens. What's different? Can you tell me? Yeah, one's a little stretched out than the other. I'm not so sure that that wouldn't fit Nicky anymore. And that is the story of the mitten.